Hi there. Thanks for taking some time out of your day to learn more about Tidepool for Clinicians. My name is Christopher Snyder. I'm Tidepool's community manager. And over the next few minutes, I'm going to be walking you through Tidepool's software that integrates data from pumps, CGMs, and blood glucose meters all in one place for free. Tidepool's a nonprofit organization. As I just mentioned, our software is free for people with diabetes and clinicians. I'm going to be walking you through two pieces of software. One is Tidepool Uploader. That's what's used to upload the data from all those pumps, CGMs, and meters to the Tidepool platform. And the second is Tidepool Web, which is where the data is visualized for you and your patients. If after watching this video you still have questions or you want to get in touch with anybody else on the Tidepool team, please send an email to support@tidepool.org. Let's get started. Before we get into Tidepool Uploader, I wanted to spend a moment to review some of the devices that are supported with Tidepool. You can review all of our supported devices at tidepool.org/devices. On this page, you can filter for and identify all the different insulin pumps, CGMs, and blood glucose meters that are currently supported by the Tidepool platform. Specifically with insulin pumps, we support, among others, the Medtronic 670, 630, and 530G. From Insulet, both the original Omnipod PDM and the newer Omnipod Dash PDM. From Tandem, their entire suite of products, including the t:slim X2 running basal IQ. And while Animas is still around, we do support the Ping and the Vibe. On the CGM side of things, we support all of Dexcom's products, G4, G5, and G6, both the Freestyle Libre and Libre Pro. The caveat here is that we currently only support uploading data from the Freestyle Libre reader. Additionally, we do support Medtronic's Enlight and Guardian sensors. Regarding blood glucose meters, there are a variety of blood glucose meters we currently support. My ask of you as clinicians in interacting with your patients, if you identify any blood glucose meters that we do not yet support, please send an email to support@tidepool.org and let us know what meters we should be prioritizing our work to add support for. Lastly, if your patients are using their iPhones to manage any portion of their diabetes data using apps like Dexcom Mobile, OneDrop, MySugar, or Companion Medical's InPen, they can upload their blood glucose, carbohydrate, or insulin data from their iPhones wirelessly using our app Tidepool Mobile on their iPhones. And now let's take a look at Tidepool Uploader. Welcome to Tidepool Uploader. This is a software that's used to upload data from all of those supported insulin pumps, CGMs, and blood glucose meters to your patient's Tidepool accounts. This is software that's installed on a Mac or Windows PC. It can be installed on computers in your clinic, or it can be installed on your patients' homes where they can upload their data before they come in to see you. I'm currently logged in to Tidepool Uploader with our demo clinician account, Dr. Sally C-Star, so everything you see here in this demo video is exactly what you will see whenever you log in to Tidepool Uploader with your clinician account. After you've logged in, we have two options for you. First is to search for your patient and upload their data, and the other is to create a new patient account. Let's start with creating a new patient account. To add a new patient account, click Add New. And to get started with a new patient account in Tidepool, all you need to enter is your patient's full name and their date of birth. We have two optional fields down below. One is for the medical record number. If you have a record-keeping system, you can enter that numerical value here and search for that later on instead of searching for your patient's full name. Additionally, we have a field at the bottom for email address. While this field is optional, I describe it as highly encouraged because what happens here is the Tidepool system will send an email to your patients letting them know that you've created a Tidepool account for them. Once they've read through that email, clicked on the link to acknowledge and claim their account, then and only then will they be able to upload their data from home and view their data from home. If you're keen to have your patients upload their data before they come in to see you, including the email address in here is highly, highly encouraged. To upload data to your patient's account, first we start with our friendly search bar and search for a given patient's name. We'll go to James Jellyfish for the rest of this demonstration. And here there are a couple of things to keep in mind. One is the time zone. This is one of the key pieces of information our software uses to keep all of your patient's diabetes data in sync. While your offices aren't moving anytime soon, errant clicks do happen, so please take care to note that the time zone should be accurate before connecting and uploading any of your patient's diabetes devices. We do indicate the expected time on the diabetes devices within Tidepool Uploader, so you should take care to make sure that things are accurate before you begin uploading. There is no proprietary hardware or special dongles required to upload data using Tidepool Uploader. Simply connect the given diabetes devices with the USB cables that come with those devices to your computer's USB port one at a time and click Upload as you need. James Jellyfish is currently ready to upload data from his OneTouch Vario IQ blood glucose meter and an Insulet Omnipod. However, if this patient were to be changing insulin pumps from an Omnipod to a Tandem pump, for example, this would be accomplished within Tidepool Uploader by clicking Change Devices, unchecking one box, and checking another. And within a matter of just a few clicks, you're ready to upload data from a Tandem insulin pump to the exact same patient account without having to change diabetes software. As mentioned, those standard USB cables that come with all those diabetes devices that are currently supported by Tidepool are all you need to upload data to your patient's Tidepool accounts. The exception to this rule are Medtronic pumps. For older Medtronic pumps supported by Tidepool, including the 530G, we require that you use the Contour NextLink blood glucose meter. Again, this is the blood glucose meter, not the CareLink stick. To upload data from one of these older Medtronic pumps, simply plug in the Contour NextLink blood glucose meter to your computer's USB port, enter the pump serial number here, and click Upload. To upload data from the Medtronic 630, 640, or 670, simply plug in the Contour NextLink 2.4 meter to your computer's USB port. If the meter and pump are linked, you can leave this checkbox right here checked and click Upload, and you'll be on your way. However, if the meter and pump are not linked, you can uncheck this box, enter the pump serial number, and you can use any Contour NextLink 2.4 meter to upload data from any Medtronic 630, 640, or 670G directly to Tidepool. Lastly, please note this drop-down selector indicating the amount of data you want to upload from your patient's pump. If this is the first time your patients are uploading their Medtronic 670 to their Tidepool account within your clinic, we default to uploading just the last 4 weeks of data to expedite the upload process. There is an option, however, to upload data since the last time your patients have uploaded their data, or to upload all data on their pump. Once you've completed uploading data for a given patient, simply click Change Person at the top and you're brought back to this friendly search bar and you're ready to upload data for a new patient. If at any point you have any questions about installing or using Tidepool Uploader, please do not hesitate to send an email to support@tidepool.org. Now that we've covered Tidepool Uploader, let's take a look at what your patient's data looks like in Tidepool Web. Welcome to Tidepool Web. This is where all of your patient's diabetes data is visualized in an accessible manner for you and your patients. A couple of things to note here. One is that Google Chrome is required to view Tidepool data. If you do not have Google Chrome installed on your computers at your clinic, please contact your IT administrator for help with that one. Second, I've currently logged into Tidepool Web with Dr. Sally Seastar, our demo clinician account, so this is everything you will see whenever you log in to Tidepool Web with your clinician account. However, after this patient list screen, everything else you're about to see in terms of the data presentation is exactly what your patients would see whenever they review their Tidepool data at home. We do not differentiate data visualization between patients and providers. When you're ready to start reviewing your patient's data in Tidepool, simply enter the name into the search bar and click on their name to begin. To start, we have the Basics view, which is a 3-week device summary for every device that's been uploaded to your given patient's account. You can see at the top the most recent 3 weeks of data that we have available within the Basics view, in this case for James Jellyfish, May 13th through the 31st. James Jellyfish has uploaded data from a Vario IQ blood glucose meter and a tandem insulin pump running Basal IQ, which includes Dexcom G6 CGM data on it. To start with the Basics view, on the right side we have our summary statistics, which show, on average, the daily time in range for a given blood glucose target. As you hover over each of the different data ranges, you can see the blood glucose targets, in this case for time in range 65 to 180, for time above range 180 to 250, and time well above range, and in this case above 250. We also display average blood glucose based off of CGM data, sensor usage percentage, again based off of CGM data, from the insulin pump, average daily total insulin breakdowns, including basal and bolus percentages, average daily carbs from the insulin pump again, and lastly, GMI, which is a glucose management indicator, which is an estimated value of A1C based off of CGM data. While this value is not replacing the blood test, between the GMI and the time in range stats, this would give your patients a really good idea of where they are in terms of their diabetes targets. Moving down the middle of the page, we first start with our blood glucose reading section. Here we have data that can either come from a blood glucose meter, and we can identify that by clicking on this filter first, or what Tidepool considers manual blood glucose readings, which means your patient has read their CGM data and entered that value directly or manually into their insulin pump for a bolus or a correction. Additionally, we can filter this section for readings that are below 54 or above 250, and use all of these different filters to identify trends and opportunities for database conversations with your patients. Specifically, if you've prescribed that your patients check their blood glucose 4 to 5 times per day, you can use this meter filter to identify when your patients are checking their blood glucose and see if they actually are sticking to the 4 to 5 times per day you've prescribed. Moving down the page, we have our bolus section. This is all data coming off the insulin pump. We have a bunch of different filters within this section, so you can identify the number of times that a bolus calculator was used, in this case 100%. Nice work, James. You can see how often a correction was issued with the bolus, how often a patient requested more insulin than a bolus calculator recommended, in this case we call that a bolus override, or how often a patient requested less insulin than a bolus calculator recommended, which is considered a bolus underride. We also have available filters for boluses that are interrupted by an alarm, or any times an extended bolus were used. In the case of this data, you could review the frequency of overrides and underrides to identify where insulin pump settings might be off, or if there's a high frequency of corrections that have been issued, that might be an indication that carb counting might require a little more work. Moving down the page, we have our infusion site section. Rather than your patient simply telling you they change their infusion site every 3 days, here you can see the data doesn't lie, as James Jellyfish had a few infusion sites that ran longer than 3 days. Here's one 4-day stint and another 4-day stint here as well. If you use this section to identify your patients running their infusion sites for 4, 5, or even 6 days, again, you have data to inform a conversation with your patients about how they're currently managing their diabetes. At the bottom of the basic screen, we have our basal section. Here we can filter for temporary basals where your patients are requesting more or less insulin than was previously scheduled within their basal profile. Or in the case of James Jellyfish, who again is using that t:slim X2 with basal IQ, you can see how often his basal was suspended. In this case, on May 15th, for example, 16 different automatic suspend events because basal IQ was overriding his basal delivery. The BG log section represents 2 weeks of blood glucose log data. If your patients are uploading only blood glucose meter data, this will likely be one of your favorite screens. However, there also are, in the case of James Jellyfish's data, all of his manual blood glucose entries when he's reading his CGM and inputting those manual values into his insulin pump for a bolus or a correction. Here we have 2 weeks of data, all stored within James's Tidepool account. As you scroll back in time, you can see as our summary statistics on the right will dynamically update to show where these readings are falling within his target ranges, as well as the average blood glucose based off of that blood glucose meter data and standard deviation and coefficient of variation. While we have 2 weeks of data within the blood glucose log section, if you're looking for more data to come out of this view in particular, you can click this print button, and the Tidepool Web application will generate a PDF that includes everything that we've seen from the basics view, the last 6 days from the daily view, the last 30 days from the blood glucose log section, and the insulin pump profile settings at the last time of upload. This is one way we currently offer to get Tidepool data offline. This can be printed out and held in your hands if you want to get analog with it, or you can save this and upload it to your patient's electronic health record for future reference. The Trends view overlays blood glucose meter or CGM data over a 24-hour period to help you and your patients better understand where blood glucose trends and variability are currently occurring. Within this view, we can filter for 1 week of data, 2 weeks of data, or 4 weeks of data. Additionally, if your patients have, for example, swim practice on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we can look at 4 weeks of Monday, Wednesday, Friday CGM data as well. Lastly, we can also use the different options down at the bottom to focus the data presentation to just show the median of CGM data over these different time periods, where 50% of CGM readings are taking place, where 80% of CGM readings are taking place, or 100% of all CGM readings to see where all of those data outliers are currently occurring. Lastly, we can hover over any portion within the trends view to identify within this half-hour time block the CGM lines that are contributing to that data view. Here we can see, as James Jellyfish is extremely high overnight, there's going to be a bit of a roller coaster over the rest of the day. Using these views, we can identify those specific trends and use the data again to inform a more focused conversation about how specific changes in diabetes management tactics might improve blood glucose trends long term. As the data that is presented is adjusted over the 1, 2, or 4 week view, or as different days are included or excluded from the different views, our summary statistics will dynamically update to show the average daily time in range, average blood glucose, sensor usage percentage, glucose management indicator returns, as well as standard deviation and coefficient of variation. One of the great things about Tidepool is how all the data is connected. Everything we've seen from the Trends, BG Log, and Basics view will all link back to the daily view with a simple click. For example, this day on May 15th looks kind of interesting with its 16 automatic suspend events. We can click on this and take a deeper dive into what's happening here within the daily view. This is where we sync up all of that blood glucose meter, CGM, and insulin pump data all in one place just for you. To start on the right, we have our summary statistics, including time in range for this given 24-hour period, average blood glucose in this case based off of CGM data, and total insulin for the day, including a basal and bolus breakdown. Additionally, we display total carbs for the day, as well as standard deviation and coefficient of variation for that CGM data. Our blood glucose section within the daily view displays CGM data, in this case for James Jellyfish from a Dexcom G6. As you hover over each data point, you can see the blood glucose value and the timestamp. This would also be where data from a Medtronic sensor is displayed, as well as a Freestyle Libre. However, in the case of a Freestyle Libre, the dots and data points would be spaced out every 15 minutes instead of every 5. Larger data points within the blood glucose section indicate either a manual blood glucose entry, as in the one shown here, or in the case of a blood glucose meter that was either linked or directly uploaded, the source would be listed as meter or linked. Below that, we have our boluses and carbs section. As you hover over each event, you'll be able to identify the blood glucose entered at the time of insulin delivery, total carbs entered for the bolus calculator, total insulin delivered, as well as the insulin pump settings at the time of insulin delivery. In the case that there's already insulin on board, we do indicate that as well. And in the case of a bolus override or underride, there is a dark blue tick indicated in that bolus event. And you can see the suggested bolus amount here, in this case 2.22 units, the overridden amount 0.78 units, and the total insulin delivered a nice round 3.0 units of insulin. At the bottom we have our basal rate section. Solid lines here indicate a scheduled basal rate that was delivered. As you hover over each basal portion, you'll see the scheduled basal rate and the duration for that scheduled basal. Dotted lines represent a temporary basal. As you hover over those basal events, you'll see the scheduled basal rate, the actual temporary basal that was delivered, in this case 150%, and the duration of the temporary basal, for this one, 3 hours. Lastly, you'll note these S and R flags and indicators within the basal section. These indicate automatic pump suspensions. Again, James Jellyfish is using a T-Slim with basal IQ, but any pump with a low glucose suspend feature would have those basal events recorded here as well. As you hover over each automatic suspend event, we do indicate the total duration of the pump suspension. In the case of this one right here, 20 total minutes. Lastly, we have our notes section at the top. Notes can be made within Tidepool Web, either from the patient or clinician side of things, or using our mobile app, Tidepool Mobile, which is available on iOS and Android. Notes can be used to add context to your patient's diabetes data. In the case of James Jellyfish, he could document everything he ate for breakfast over the course of a 2-week period and then go back and review precisely what he ate in relation to the rest of his diabetes data to have a better sense of what his actions were doing to impact his blood glucose numbers. As a clinician, you can see those notes on your side, comment on those notes, or in the case of Dr. Sally Seastar, make new notes yourself whenever you see something that is curious within your patient's diabetes data. You can make those notes and your patients can see them as well. Lastly, we have our device settings. This is all data, again, coming off the insulin pump at the last time of upload. We start by leaving the insulin pump profile that was active at the time of upload open. However, you can click through and expand the other insulin pump profiles to see everything that has been programmed into your patient's insulin pump. As previously mentioned, the device settings are included in the PDF printout within Tidepool Web. However, you can click this copy as text button and paste all of your patient's pump settings directly as text into their patient record or electronic health record as you see fit. And this is the other way that we currently offer to get Tidepool data offline. Once you've finished reviewing data for a given patient, simply click the care team icon at the top and you're brought back to the friendly search bar and you're ready to start the process all over again. If you have any questions about the data that you see within Tidepool Web, please don't hesitate to reach out and contact us at support@tidepool.org. So that's a quick run through of the Tidepool experience. Again, Tidepool is a nonprofit organization. Everything that I've just shown you is free for you and your patients. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out by contacting us at support@tidepool.org. Have a nice day.